Welcome back to another edition of the Men Who Cry podcast. Like, subscribe, review, tell a friend, 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 tell a friend. If you not do these things, I have to assume that you are unable to go to the gym even during Thanksgiving week. Yes, this is why you have seen me again in this hoodie, wearing this cap. I don't know if this is even really a cap. It's just something to stop the sweat to get into my eyes. And my hair looks crazy because I haven't gotten it done. And I probably won't get it done for the rest of the year. It's people who have locks. They know my struggle. I'm out here. This is just the hair that I have. But listen, as much as I've seen the Jaylen Brown memes, I will not be out here complaining about having a lot of hair in a lot of different places. But on today's episode, we will be talking about the anticipated debut for the man who everyone believes has been destroyed, has been pushed down, has been left aside. A true internet freedom fighter. We will have talking about the Colts versus the Chiefs in a game that was oddly entertaining and boring and also somewhat expected. And we have the number 3. Yes, we're almost done with our butterfly moments, top 25 butterfly moments of the last 25 seasons. We have number 3 coming up with you guys later today, but we have to start in Dallas. Yes, we are starting in Dallas because we are talking about the Eagles losing to the Dallas Cowboys. Watch that entire game. The Dallas Cowboys defeated the Eagles 24-21. Outscoring the Eagles 24-0 in the second, or really 21-0 in the second half. They got a field goal at the end for their troubles. And the thing about it is, I want to start with the Cowboys first. It's odd because as a fan of the Giants, it's tough for me to talk about both of these teams, but this is the place that we're at. We do not talk about football in New York. But Dak is having, and I think the Cowboys are having, the season that the Bengals had last year, where Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Chase Brown put up all these points, but the defense was so bad and they were going to miss the playoffs. They went, I think, 9-8 last year. And I think going into this season, a lot of people felt that this was going to be that version of the Bengals last year. Dak, 2 great receivers, a decent running back, and a defense that was going to be terrible, and they were going to finish around 500, right? But they are a real live dog against the Chiefs at home. They're a 3.5 point underdog at home against the Chiefs, where Dak has done big numbers when he's at home, especially as an underdog. And you watch that game, and the Cowboys looked like they were about to get ran through. It was 21-0. Pretty much, and it just didn't seem like the Cowboys had any chance, one, of stopping the Eagles, and then the other tie looking to score against the Eagles. But credit to Dak, and credit to the Chiefs, and credit to, I can't believe I'm saying this, George Pickens. Like I said, man, there is nothing more unstoppable in sports than a player looking to get his first big contract. And George Pickens is doing exactly that. He has been outstanding. I think most people already saw the stat if you're into sports at all. George Pickens has, I think, either almost or more yards than every single receiver on the Steelers. He's at like over 1,000 yards already. I think he's at like 1,078, and the entire Steelers receiving core is at like 1,057. It's been nuts. And to get that guy for a 3rd-round pick, and I think most people understood why they traded him off him, because he was, showing off knuckleheadish behavior. But he has been anything but that. And it's not just the fact that he's putting up a lot of yards. He's putting up a lot of these yards, and it's leading to winning. I mean, when CeeDee Lamb went out for about a month, he was really their only top receiver. They still had Jake Ferguson there. But he was the guy getting all the catches, and they needed him, and they still need him going forward. And Dak has been in a very odd situation. They showed a stat. Do people realize that Dak is now the all-time leading passer for the Cowboys? I don't think people knew that, or the fact that he passed Tony Romo for that yesterday. And he's had such an odd career because he is as we're going to get to someone else later, the true markings of an underdog. You know, his rookie year, he came in and Tony Romo got hurt in a preseason game. And that's the only reason he got a chance to start. And because they won so many games, they couldn't go back to Romo. And then he basically retired him. You know, that's kind of unfortunately what professional sports is. It's just about retiring the guy in front of you. And then for the next 10 years, essentially, or longer than that now, almost for Dak, he's kind of been a guy who's been number one seed in the entire conference to breaking his leg or ankle, rather, missing an entire season to being really bad to just all over the place. And he's had what I would call a very good career. And I think as some people who are just looking for internet clicks, Draymond Green called him a bum. He's clearly not a bum. The guy's one of the best quarterbacks of this generation. Of the last 10 years, I think the only guys that you can definitely put ahead of him are clearly all the guys who have won this, who are MVP candidates or have won the MVP. So we're going with Patrick, Joe, Lamar, Josh Allen. Stafford and Dak is a very interesting conversation, right? Because again, Stafford is, and look, he played amazing on Sunday Night Football and is going to back his way into the Hall of Fame, which if you look at Stafford's career, I think that should give Cowboys fans the hope that they can eventually win one with Dak Prescott, because just frankly, he's had either the same career or a better career than Stafford. Just has. Now, Stafford's going to get in because he's already got Super Bowl. He's got a few weeks away from locking up this MVP. So the overall high level numbers will be better. But the fact that he's only got 3 Pro Bowls, and I got to assume Dak's got to have at least 4. I'm looking this up in real time for everyone, so bear with. But I have to think that he's had, my guess would be 3. But yeah. Oh, wow. Got it right on the number. Dak Prescott has been to 3 Pro Bowls. I think it would have to take a lot for him to fall off right now, because Stafford's definitely in. I'm really trying to think of an NFC quarterback that's even going to challenge him. Baker, you would think, would have a viable chance, but he just hurt his shoulder, so we'll see if he's able to finish out the season and have some more games left. But I can't think of another NFC quarterback that's definitely getting in over him. You can't say Jalen Hurts, even though Jalen Hurts has had a really good year. I think Dak's just overall played better than him, more consistently at least. Love's been up and down. Jared Goff's been really up and down. There's no one really in the NFC South that I just mentioned. Baker. You would think it would be between it would be between Hurts, Dak, and probably Sam Darnold for the last 2 spots. But I think he's pretty much going to get in. And the fact this guy's going to have 4 Pro Bowls to Stafford's 3, because he's definitely getting in this year, is remarkable. And as much as we define a lot of stuff by Super Bowls and a lot of just by winning, Dak's just been awesome. He's been awesome for a while. And also, the number one credit I also give for guys, when you have an owner who's as eccentric as someone like Jerry Jones, the fact that he comes into work and is able to just do his job and get the stuff done with all the noise that comes with playing for the Cowboys, I think has been very impressive. From a guy who was the SEC Player of the Year 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I think, to, being the quarterback that he is now, truly, truly remarkable. Switching over to now the Eagles, these dudes don't seem to like each other. And that doesn't mean that I think that they won't be they won't win the Super Bowl. It doesn't mean I don't think they still won't get to the Super Bowl. But something is clearly up with them, right? And no one really wants to talk about why it is. And we're getting to a point now where it's like, okay, what's going to happen is they're going to have to lose, whether it's in the playoffs, whether it's in the Super Bowl. And that's when it will all eventually come out, because that's what happens every single time. Anytime you have a team and you keep looking at the team and it's like the vibes of this team are just off, it's going to happen, right? And football is very an interesting sport, because one of the things I truly believe about not just sports but about life is vibes. I think having vibes in your organization is very, very, very important. I remember people talking about, like, there's a custodian guy who's been at the company for 30 years. And the reason why the company is able to get around is because this dude just does his job so excellently, and it sets a standard for people, right? And it's like, all right, if this guy is able to do it, we all need to do it, or whatever, right? And this is a value to being a vibes guy. If I even go back to my team, right, the Mets, 2 years ago, when there was no expectation, everyone thought this was going to be one of the worst baseball teams. They get all the way to NLCS, in large part, not just because they had good players. Those players were there the year before when they really disappointed. But a lot of it had to do with vibes. And I think baseball is a lot more of a vibe sport, just because there's so many games. You have to be able to drum up enthusiasm to play all the time. But football, I don't think is as much as like that, because it's kind of segregated. You're kind of one section, the other side is in one section. And because they are, I believe, the most talented team in the league, they're going to keep winning a bunch of games. But something is clearly up with them. And whether it's A.J. Brown keeps sneak dissing the quarterback, and then Devontae Smith keeps saying something, you hear something that Jason Kelsey is saying that these issues are personal to him. And then they just lost a game that they should not have lost. This is going to bite them in the ass. There's no way that you can go this far with the team just being kind of like meh for a large part and think you're going to win, 2 to 3 straight playoff games and win the Super Bowl. No, I just don't see that happening. And how this falls out, I mean, the coach is going to get fired if they don't get to the Super Bowl. Their coach is getting fired. That's just quite mainly because the big question would just be, is like, what do you do here? You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't coach the offense, you don't coach the defense, you aren't doing special teams. Your kind of job is the vibes. And it just doesn't seem that this team has been happy all year. And it's always something. And I think that they are going to be a team that we are just going to find out that someone has been pissed about something. And I don't know what those things are, but eventually it'll come out and it'll come to light, and we will see what exactly is going to be this team's kryptonite, because I think that they are going to combust in some form or fashion. And it's not just because they lost to the Cowboys. Losing to the Cowboys isn't the worst thing in the world. But it is clearly that there is some like level of nonsense going on that just we haven't been able to see exactly what it's been. Shifting over to the earlier game that we talked about last week, the big game, probably the biggest regular season game the Chiefs have played in a couple of years. The Chiefs are able to survive against Indianapolis Colts. Really showed some heart of the champion stuff in this game. It also showed that Daniel Jones just still is Daniel Jones. And boy, when it comes playoff time and whoever gets to face the Colts, as of right now, the Colts are the 3 seed. We'll see how that goes. I'm pretty sure they're going to win the South, their division. But it does not look good for the believers of Daniel Jones, and to see if he will actually be the guy that can help you get to the Super Bowl. But I thought this game was way more about the Chiefs, in the sense that that game to me was a vintage Chiefs game of the last couple of years, right? I think this high-flying aerial assault team with when Travis Kelce was in his prime, when you had Tyreek Hill, when you had all those guys for the team, and Mahomes was throwing 50 touchdown passes. I don't know if that team is ever coming back. But what I think that they have is the team that can get wins, right? They can get first downs when they need them. They can go on touchdown drives when they need them. Even if it doesn't look pretty, they're still able to do so. And that was their first win in a one-score game the entire year. They're now 1-5 on the season on that. And that team getting in is still the dangerous team to get in, if they're able to get in. Now, I am not 100% sure they are getting in, right? but they show you that's how playoff football is going to be. It's not going to be pretty. You're not going to play your best the whole time. You're going to have to struggle. In games, you're going to have to fight through stuff. And that's why ultimately they're always going to be around. And because of Mahomes, they're always going to be contenders, right? When you have that QB and you have that coach and the GM who's able to clearly put good players around them, you'll find a way to get in. Or you'll find a way to always be around when it matters the most, right? Now, their schedule to end the year is still hard. That Cowboys game is not going to be the easiest thing in the world now, and they might have one more loss to play with. Now, if you're going to lose a game, you would rather lose to an NFC team, right? So, obviously, they would not want to go 6-6, but if you were to lose another game, much rather lose to the Cowboys in the NFC than losing to the Chargers again or the Broncos or whoever. Those games are going to be tough. But no team wants to face them. And they still put a level of fear into opponents where they didn't even know what to do, right? I think some teams don't necessarily fear them the same way I would say other teams had in the past. But you could just see the Colts were starting to wither as that game went on and on and on. And specifically, Daniel Jones is just not playing up to who he is. And it'll be fascinating to see how they were able to do this. And can they now go on a run and play essentially playoff level football for the next 8 weeks or so until we eventually get away to the Super Bowl, if they're able to even get there. All right. Now to oddly the most anticipated game between 2-8 teams probably ever, I can imagine. Both these teams were not very good. Yes, we were talking about the Shedur Sanders story that gets in there. But before we get into that, I want to share a quick little story about myself, right? So one of the things that I loved when I was like a teenager or a kid, right? I love 30 for 30s. Love them, right? I love great storytelling in sports. My favorite 30 for 30 off the top of my head right now, I didn't do really any research into it. If I had to guess, it would be 1994. I think it's July 12th, 1994, or June 12th, 1994. It's basically the day where O.J. Simpson's running away from the police. The Knicks and the Rockets are in the NBA Finals. Someone's winning the Masters, and the Rangers are celebrating their championship, their Stanley Cup. And they basically just show you like they give you like timestamps of like what's happening, right? I was around, but I was paying attention to this stuff. And they just show you everything that's like transpiring throughout the day. And it's such great storytelling. Unfortunately, I don't know where you can find these 30 for 30s anymore. You would think ESPN, that's making you pay all this money for their apps, would put it there, but that's neither here nor there. But I'm always fascinated about these like stories of like, these guys that come from nothing, right? These women that come from nothing, that like they have to work their way up, under recruited, weren't able to make it, got cut a bunch of times, right? Even like someone like Kurt Warner, right? If you know anything about Kurt Warner's story of like playing in the AFL, getting cut a bunch of times to winning the Super Bowl, winning an MVP, getting to another Super Bowl, getting to the Hall of Fame, of just like grit and grind, right? I think that those are the most beautiful things about sports, is being able to overcome the odds when the odds are stacked up against you. This is nothing like the Shedur Sanders story. Nothing about it is anything like that, right? It is one of the most contrived, like, sports, like, they're against me stories I've ever seen. Truly ever, right? And the story of this game should be the fact that the Browns had 10 sacks, and Myles Garrett is probably going to break the sack record that's lasted since 2002. So we're going on 23 years that this thing has been around. Michael Strahan currently still has the record, and he's on pace to do it in 16 games. But the story is that a guy who had a completion percentage of about 55%, averaged 10 yards a pass, threw a pick, took a sack, had an 87 passer rating. Truly, honestly, if you look at it, because I have both of their numbers up here now, had a statistically worse start than his first start than Dylan Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel was 19 of 33. He had a 57 completion percentage. Literally, the only things that Shedur beat him in was average pass, which Shedur was really helped by that 52-yard bomb, which was a great pass. But he had less touchdowns. He had more interceptions. He had a worse passer rating in the game. And it is something that I just realized that I just can't buy into because it's just not a thing that I see as being there. All right. He played well. He played okay. Right. His first touchdown pass was essentially a swing pass out that the running back, I think it was Quentin Jenkins, ran down and scored a touchdown on. And like I said before, I mentioned his big play, his big moment that he really had was that he had a pass to a 52-yard pass up the seam when he made a guy miss, spun out, and made a good play, right? The thing that is so frustrating about this, I think, is that people should just let the kid have the moment and just let it be, and we'll see how it goes from here, right? That game did not change my opinion about it whatsoever, you know? I don't see a star. I don't see a superstar. And I think fans are going to ultimately be disappointed into how this is going to go for them. But it was just reported that Kevin Stefanski was named him the starter for the San Francisco 49ers. But the thing that I'm already disappointed in, and I already know what's going to happen in, it's already set up for this to happen. People were not criticizing. There's a play in the game where Jerry Jeudy, I don't know what the hell he was doing, catches a pass from Shedur and is like kind of running up the sideline, but he's not gone, right? There's a defender in front of him, kinda. He starts like hop skipping for some reason and then gets the ball punched out from behind him and he fumbles the ball. But it's not just the fact that like that was just a dumb play. I don't know what he was doing it. People were blaming him and being like, you're messing this up for Shedur. And I'm like, there's other guys on the team that he's messing it up for. How about himself? You know, it was just a stupid play. And what I've realized now is that everything about the Browns is just going to somehow weirdly be tied back to Shedur in a weird way. If the defense gives up a touchdown, they're faking it for Shedur. If a receiver drops a pass, it is now an indictment because he's trying to get Shedur to lose the game. It is baffling the amount of just stupidity, frankly, that you just see online with all these conversations. And it's we're getting to the point now where we're like upset that the coach didn't give him the game ball at the end and they're mad at that. I mean, we're getting to the point where now the water boy is going to get upset. But now it's odd because before it was the coach was sabotaging him by calling the wrong plays, but now he called the right plays because he played like kind of well. Like none of it actually makes any sense, but it is a story of 2025, right? Where there is a thing that happened, and instead of looking at facts, people just looked at whatever the thing is that they need to make themselves feel better, and then have now placed everything out there for things that happen, right? When things go well for them, oh, look at him, he's so great, he's beating the odds. And when things go bad for him, it's everyone else's fault, right? So he'll be playing again against San Francisco. I don't know if that game is at home or on the road, but that's going to be a very tough defense. I know they have a lot of injuries, but Robert Saleh is one of the best defensive coordinators in the league, and we will see what he has planned for him. All right. Lastly, for you guys, we have the number 3 butterfly moment of the last 25 years. If you are new to this, we are counting down the top 25 moments that have happened since 2000 in the world of sports. They don't necessarily have to be something that happened on the court. They just have to affect the sports world in some type of significant way. And unfortunately, this one is very sad, but it's number 3 on our list. We have Kobe Bryant's death in a very tragic way. This was in 2020, and many people believe it kind of cascaded all the negative things that happened in that year. I think this is one of the moments where I think everyone knew where they were when this happened. I think for me, this is probably up there with Michael Jackson dying. I remember exactly where I was when Michael Jackson died, or it was announced when Michael Jackson died. You know, this was old when I found that out on the radio that Michael Jackson passed away. I can't really even think of a moment outside of like a singular death. Like obviously like 9/11 happened in my lifetime. I knew where I was at that point, but I'm talking about like a singular person passing away that it was like the world felt like it just stopped. And that's what happened with Kobe Bryant and in that helicopter crash. It's odd because it's such a sad moment because you saw his whole career, whether you liked Kobe Bryant or not, and you saw all the ups and downs, all the twists and turns, like truly just a crazy story. And of course it happens in Los Angeles with the Lakers. And I'm talking about this guy being one of the most beloved players in the league to being a villain and truly despised. I mean, like truly despised by fan bases for either kicking their team's asses or doing things off the court that were not in vogue, definitely. And to see his career go, to see the influence that he had on women's basketball, even now, a lot of the WNBA players talk about Kobe Bryant's ability to lift up the W and kind of be somewhat of a pioneer in that sport in his own way. And to see him personally change into the person that he became later in life was, I think, astounding. And it just goes to show you again, like I was watching, I haven't watched the whole concert, but Childish Gambino performed at Tyler the Creator Show, or his Camp Now, and he revealed that he had a stroke, which was terrifying to think about. And he kind of brushed over the like the procedures that he had, but I guess he had a couple procedures at that story or during that stroke, and he was making a point where he was like, I guess people have two lives, and your second life starts when you realize that you only have one life. Like no one thought Kobe Bryant was going to die, that age at least, but he did, and it's over. But you can't tell me that he did not impact millions of people around the world with who he was and how he went about and lived his life. And as someone who was a staunch Kobe Bryant hater, right? There's no way in the world you can look at that and not have a respect for how he went about and try to live his life and try to uplift the people around him. And it's just a reminder that you have one life and you're going to have to do everything you can to make the most of it. And that's part of the reason that I do this podcast, and part of the reason this podcast is going to be successful. Not today, but sometime in the future. But that is all the time that we have for you guys today. Thank you guys again for listening. We will not have a show until December. Yes, this is the last show of November because we are getting close to Thanksgiving time. So thank you all for listening to the Men Who Cry podcast. You are all the people who I am the most thankful for, because this was an idea started by me and me alone almost a year ago now. Crazy enough to think about. We're almost at the 1 year anniversary of this pod. And we might do a little special episode when we get close to the end of the year for that. But I'm really thankful for everyone who listens, who likes, who subscribes, who tells a friend, all that good stuff. It really does mean a lot to me. And while I am not at the place yet that I want to be, you got to be happy about the places that you are and find where your feet are. And this is something I'm going to keep doing, keep growing, keep building. And one day it's going to be at the place where I want it to be. So thank you all for listening to the Men Who Cry podcast. Like, subscribe, review, tell a friend. And I'll see you guys next time.